Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to participate this morning. What I'm going to do is tell you a little bit about what we've done in Arkansas over the past, essentially, 19 years. In 2005, um, I retired from Entergy, where I had worked for about 15 years. And in '06, in January, the commission in Arkansas opened a rulemaking on energy efficiency. And I was helping them develop that. And we started with a stakeholder process that ultimately evolved into what's called the parties working collaboratively, which involved all of the investor-owned utilities. We have 4 electric utilities and 3 natural gas utilities. We also have 17 distribution co-ops and a generation and transmission co-op that serves all of them. They participated in the rulemaking, the co-ops did, but then they asked for an exemption from the process and said that their business model is such that they could do it on their own. So from that point on, even though the commission does regulate the co-ops in Arkansas in contrast to Missouri, they do their own thing and are not covered by the rules that the commission adopted. So I've got these slides here. I'm going to probably not use all of them, or at least I won't dwell on them. But the process involved a year-long stakeholder process assisted by the Regulatory Assistance Project. We had a speaker from there, your Missouri person yesterday, and our commission in Arkansas has worked with REP for many years to help us on energy efficiency and refinements of our process that we started in 2006, and the rules were adopted in 2007 pursuant to a law that was actually drafted in 1976 and approved by the legislature in 1977. And that rule that statute actually provided some language that you see here in yellow that says that the commission may adopt rules for energy efficiency programs and require utilities to participate as a necessary utility function if the programs will be beneficial to both the ratepayers of the companies and to the utilities themselves. So that was the premise under which the commission was able to move forward on energy efficiency programming. And the commission adopted what were called quick start programs in 2007, started small, did not have any targets for energy savings, did not have any cost effectiveness tests, but basically said, if programs have worked elsewhere in the country, get started on those and we'll move forward. And so that was the process that was adopted under that statute. And the rules were not even adopted, though, until 2007. So it was almost 30 years after the statute was approved before any activity actually began to adopt the programs. The utilities, while I worked for them at Entergy, occasionally I would bring that subject up, and they probably didn't believe that it was possible to make energy efficiency something they wanted to do. And so no utility ever sought to do anything under the statute until 2006, when the commission said we need to move forward and adopted the rules and programs. They're very similar to, it sounds like, to what Missouri has had. The three-legged stool is a common term that we have used for years, where the companies are able to budget and plan for the three-year plans and come up with their own budgets. They set what the level is that they should spend over the ensuing 3-year plans each year. It seems like every year is the level of spending is about the same under each of the 3-year plans that have been adopted over those years. In the early years, the programs did not have any goals or targets for savings. The Quick Start programs essentially worked for a while, and ultimately the commission set targets pursuant to the continuing activity of the parties working collaboratively. At that time, proposals were made for targets and incentives to be adopted for the utilities. And the goals were set, as I said very early, quite low at 0.25% of sales of the utilities, and it would then move to 0.5 and 0.9 and 1% and up to 1.2%, which is where it remains now for the last couple of cycles. If there, I think, is any important thing, I think that I would say about the programs we've had is that if we had not had goals or targets for energy savings, we wouldn't have achieved anything. There won't really be any performance if you don't have something you're shooting for. And I can point out that we did have some emulation of our program approach by our sister states of Louisiana and Mississippi over the years, because Entergy serves in all three of those states, and they're the largest utility in all three of those states. And that neither of those states have ever up to targets. So therefore, programs in those states are pretty minimal. They haven't achieved a whole lot. And I just, as a footnote, mentioned that Louisiana has sought to take an approach similar to what maybe Jeff was talking about, with an independent administrator to do a statewide program, but they voted that down about a week ago, 3-2, with their commissioners having adopted that plan about a year ago. And then one of the commissioners changed and they canceled their entire programs. And I guess it falls back to the utilities to operate without any targets. In the years subsequent to the adoption of the programs in Arkansas, the targets were ramped up, as I mentioned, and a lot of other work was done by the parties working collaboratively over time. Sometimes the commission would refer some questions to them to adopt, to work together to try to come up with proposals to develop the actual incentive program for the utilities, which allows them to earn an incentive for achieving greater levels of efficiency. If they earn, the development of the program basically said, if they achieve 80% of the target or more, then they're entitled to earn an incentive. And it sort of is a sliding scale. The maximum amount they can earn is, I believe, 8% of their budget that they spend. It is capped at that point. And whether they achieve or overachieve against the target, there's often, for a lot of reasons we heard earlier about federal standards and improvements in the baseline, essentially. The utilities have often said that it was getting harder and harder to meet their targets, but I must say they seem to overachieve against the targets every year and earn the maximum incentive that they can, nearly all of them. I would say Liberty is the one utility that it's so small in Arkansas, they only have 4,300 customers, that they've never achieved enough savings to earn an incentive. It's kind of an outlier, but all the rest of them, including the gas companies, which are at a 0.5% sales target. There were other changes that were developed by the work of the PwC. We developed comprehensiveness standards so there wouldn't be cream skimming and any kind of avoided lost opportunities. And so the programs are looked at as from a portfolio standpoint, rather individually, also as program to program is developed. They came up with rules at the Commission's behest for evaluation, measurement, and verification, including the engagement of a statewide, or at least investor-owned utility statewide independent evaluation monitor. Every utility is also required to have its own evaluation company that looks at their performance. So the utilities set a budget. They estimate what they're going to save to achieve the target or exceed it. They calculate what happened at the end of each year. They turn that information over to the evaluator that they have hired. And then that evaluator files a report, an annual report. The new reports are due on May 1st, so we'll get a whole new set of reports on 2024 in just about a week. And the reports of the evaluators will check to see whether the utility achieved or didn't achieve the savings that they estimated. And then all of that is turned over to the independent evaluation monitor, Dr. Catherine Johnson of Baltimore, who has a team of people, and she evaluates the evaluators and the utility and process and actual performance recommendations to the commission annually. And I think finds that the programs are working fairly well over the years that we've been doing it. There have been other issues that the parties working collaboratively have dealt with over the years. Last year, I guess it's going on 2 years at this point, the PWC came in and recommended that the commission approve a report or a consultant to do an energy efficiency potential study. One was done in 2015, and I don't think another one has been done since that time. So the new report just came in essentially last week. I haven't even had a chance to look at it to see whether they recommend any increase in the targets. In the past, back in 2015, they said it was going to be hard to meet the targets and they probably should leave the targets where they were. And of course, the utilities continue to perform better than what the targets were. So we'll see. I guess the commission will take a look at it. I'm not speaking for my commissioners as to whether they will evaluate raising the target, but in any event, that is something that we'll look at, and then once we digest what the new report shows. The PwC also developed a standardized annual reporting packet, which is the way the utilities consistently report their results. They file an Excel workbook, which is very easily accessed. You could look at it. I've given you some links here, and you can see how they performed against the targets that were set. And they use the total resource cost test as the principal test, but they do all of the California standard performance tests and report on those. Here are some of the results that we have. I just mentioned Entergy, and I see I've left a decimal point out. It's roughly 3.9 cents per kilowatt hour for Entergy. So you need a decimal point after the first zero there for the 1,000 kilowatt hour customer. So it's around almost $4 for them. SWEPCO, as I mentioned, which still collected LCFC, had gotten up to $7 per month, and that will probably go back down because they have now sought another formula rate plan. Oklahoma Gas and Electric is around $4 as well. Empire did not achieve any savings to report. Summit, the gas company, is around basically $1.57 per month. Black Hills $1, and Arkansas Oklahoma Gas $1.93. So those are some of the results that we've had. I am interested in some other issues that we did ask the PwC and the consultant they hired, which is GDS Associates in Atlanta, to do the potential study. We also asked them to do two other things, one of which was to evaluate the question of whether deemed savings, which has been the basis of the savings calculations and engineering estimates that were used for our programs by the utilities and their implementing contractors, whether those could be improved through some sort of measured savings using AMI and smart meters, and what that impact is on the EM&V industry. They are obviously a big industry in the world of calculating what utilities are able to save. That report came in last week, as well as the potential study. And we also asked them to evaluate what the impact would be, or maybe I should say would have been, if the home energy rebates and home energy electrification rebates at the federal level had not been paused by the new administration. We would have received $100 million in Arkansas that could have been integrated into the existing programs that the utilities have. And we posed that question to GDS a couple of years ago, soon after the Inflation Reduction Act passed. And again, they have filed some responses to the commission's questions, and I haven't even had a chance to look at them. I just got them. So that's kind of where we are. I'd like to see what happens in the world of maybe moving toward an energy efficiency 2.0, where we make some improvements in terms of actual measurements. If you could utilize the smart meters that our utilities have, Entergy now has them in place. OG&E's had them for 10 years or more, and SWEPCO is putting them in now. And whether those savings could enable better targeting of programs when you could go after low-hanging fruit and find the energy hogs that you could save the most with the biggest bang for the buck by using the smart meters, which for right now, our smart meters seem to be used principally to avoid truck rolls and enable quick connects and disconnects of utilities, and not much more than that. We do have availability of time of use pricing. And I would say 50 years ago, I started my work in this field and was hired by the commission to help evaluate a time of use rate study for a tiny town in Arkansas called Hamburg. For a year, they were placed on time of use rates with 2 cents off peak and 9 cents on peak. And we were afraid they were going to be sued. We were going to be sued for making guinea pigs out of all of those folks. We weren't sued. We managed to get through that year, and the report was done by Deloitte and Touche at the time. And since that time, we have voluntary time of use rates. There is it's not universally applicable across the state, and hardly one takes advantage of it. There's no mandate. There's no opt-out approach. So that was the beginning of my work. But I think the time of use rate would be an important factor down the road in making these programs work even better. So that's